What's up, everybody? Let's see. How's my audio? My audio working? Uh-oh. Checking my stream quality here. What's up, everybody? All you meat tards out there. Meat tards and keto files. What's up, guys? It is Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock. Lovely Sunday today. Got some sunshine earlier. Let's see here. The camera settings right on this. All right. Sunday afternoon. Hanging out. Ryder's asleep. Jessica's in the kitchen doing dishes. Ariana is trying to find new angles and ways to control what Jessica's doing using only words, which is an amazing game that children get really, really good at. Let me pull out the chat here. What's up, everybody? Got some people jumping in. I know that the notifications are not working very well. I think there's a problem with YouTube in general. Yeah, I'm pretty sure some people have been able to get the notification by unsubscribing. I'm not joking here. I'm not saying unsubscribe. Unsubscribe, then resubscribe, and hit the bell. Also, if you're triggered or offended by anything you hear here, you can also unsubscribe and then not resubscribe and don't hit the bell. Yeah. So if you don't like things that I say, you don't have to send me an email. You don't have to comment and complain. You could just unsubscribe and not watch. You know, if you're easily triggered, perhaps this is not the show for you. I'm glad the picture and sound's good. What's up, guys? Herb Stomp, Don Mateo, Katie, bunch of people in the chats. We're going to be having some fun today. We're going to be talking to Andrew Scarborough today. I've mentioned Andrew a few times recently. Andrew has been on the channel several times over the years. He's been using a low carbohydrate, ketogenic, carnivore diet for about 6 years now as a treatment for a brain tumor. So we're going to talk to Andrew. This is like the fourth time he's been on the show here over the years. Great guy, using a carnivore diet 5.5 years ago, starting this carnivore diet as a treatment for his brain tumor. And he's been very, very successful with it. So we'll be calling up Andrew in a bit. If you guys got any questions that you want answered, you can always hit the super chat. I can't read all the questions. They go too fast usually here in the chat. But if there are questions you've got or comments you want me to read, you can send over the super chat. We just had our Keto Collective, our Keto and Carnivore Collective meeting, the second week of November's Keto and Carnivore Collective. Talked a little bit about meal timing. One of the things that I've noticed over the years is just how many women don't do that well with intermittent fasting. I think people tend to brush this under the rug. A lot of the IF gurus tend to brush this under the rug and not really focus on this or admit that so many women just don't do as well on intermittent fasting as men, and that skipping breakfast for many women can backfire. So mamas out there, all the super moms like Jessica over there in the kitchen with a baby waking her up in the middle of the night, chewing on her tits for the last 2 years. She's just starting to wean Ryder now. She only nurses him a couple times a day. But, man, something that I've noticed is the ladies who are not sleeping so well, mothers, what else? Mothers as well as night shift workers, nurses, definitely tend to have more issues with intermittent fasting than men do. So ladies out there, if you're doing the intermittent fasting, if you're doing the OMAD, please check out some of my content about intermittent fasting and OMAD. I don't want to rehash one of the videos that I made earlier this week, but it's very important to understand there is a circadian rhythm to hormone production, to hunger and satiety signaling, and we can train our hunger and satiety signaling, but also it's super important to remember that if you've got a disrupted circadian rhythm, that fasting for an extended period of time can feel kind of stressful in the body. I know it feels good even to have those stress hormones elevated for so long, just like it feels good to drink a bunch of coffee and it feels good to have a big adrenaline rush, right? I mean, I spent years of my life as like an adrenaline junkie, really killing my freaking self, smashing into cars and shit. um, skating down hills, bombing hills and going through lights, just stupid crap, just to get that fix of adrenaline. Those hormones, those stress hormones and adrenaline feel really good, but it doesn't mean it's always good. You don't want adrenaline constantly elevated, just like you don't want cortisol constantly elevated. So as far as the breakfast, you need breakfast, you need it. I don't say that. But breakfast is a pretty important meal for many of us. Right? And of course, we can get into technicalities. Oh, breaking the fast is breakfast. Anytime you break a fast, if you ever eat, it's breakfast. It's break fast. Okay. Congratulations. You played a word game on the internet and you feel smart. But eating an early meal can be super, super helpful. So like within an hour of waking up, women, it can be super helpful to have some dang food, drop the cortisol levels, increase your satiety, jump your leptin levels up, and that should help. Alguien de Portugal. I love how Portuguese is so similar to Spanish, but I still can't understand a freaking word that you say if you're speaking Portuguese to me. You Portuguese, you speak so fast. Brazil. I mean, I'll catch some words when these Brazilians speak. I guess I'm sure in Portugal it's totally different than Brazilian Portuguese, but it is very difficult to pick out what you're saying. It's like this weird. It's the cadence, I think. So it's almost an Italian cadence, the Portuguese. Mads Hansen says, hi from Denmark. What's up, man? Thanks. He threw some DKKs at me. 20 DKKs. What's up, bud? I'm glad that we have so many viewers over in Denmark and Germany. I mean, shoot, it seems like we have quite a large audience over there in Europe. So shout out to all the Europeans out there. Hang in there. I know they're going to try to tax your meat really soon. They're going to try to tax your breath really soon and your farts really soon. But all this will pass. So today, guess what we're talking about, y'all? Vegan clothing is the new black. No, we're not talking about your little keep calm and char. That's not even a vegan shirt. We're not talking about vegan clothing. Although that dude totally looks like me when I had long hair. That's crazy. Except I never wear sunglasses. Look at that edgy vegan shirt. Plant-based. Plant-faced? Plant-based. No. We're not talking about these little vegan clothing brands. We're talking about fake meat. Israeli food tech company Jet Eat makes vegan zero-waste 3D printed steaks from plants. They're going to save the world, guys. This Israeli food company, out of the kindness of their hearts, have realized that it's so inefficient for all of us plebs, for all of us rural people to have our own land, right? First of all, that's outdated. Land ownership, come on, these are communal, right? This is the internet, guys. We get to pretend that it's our decision what everybody does with our land. We get to quantify water usage, land usage. We're the internet, right? We're internet vegans fighting for the corporate global takeover of all resources in the world. So we think it all belongs to us. Everyone else's land belongs to us. To us online vegan warriors of truth that we don't even believe exists. We believe that we have the right to tell everyone what to do with their land, what to do with their body. And look at this beautiful Israeli company making plant-based steaks that are 3D printed. And look at the picture they have here. That's not a plant-based steak. That's real meat. So they even put a picture of real meat to fool you. Now, we are being conditioned into accepting the inevitability of eating this soylent crap, this inevitability of eating soylent food, the inevitability of us actually eating mostly fake food. And the vanguard of this movement, the useful idiots of big industry, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie Endowment, all these foundations, all these big foundations, the useful idiots of these on the ground that are going to push this agenda even further are going to be doing it in the name of health and sustainability, of saving the planet. And guess how they know? Well, because TV told them so. TV, media, and even the education system have been so weaponized against us, have weaponized our own worldview, our own inherent tendency towards guilt and shame, and they've transmuted that. They transmuted that guilt and shame into guilt and shame about being human, because we're bad for the planet. We're bad for the earth, for Gaia. So we talked about Maurice Strong on the last live stream. Actually, no, wait. The last live stream was freaking me talking to Ask Yourself, and me and Jay talking to Ask Yourself and Vegan Gains. That was a shit show. What a joke. The stream before that, before the shit show the other day, we talked to, which was hilarious. You guys definitely got to check that out, by the way. Not for the faint of heart, of course, because it is, Vegan Gains. But that was really fun. Finally seeing Vegan Gains and his buddy Isaac. The fact. He twiddles his little crystal or whatever. That was so funny. Finally seeing them get stomped in a debate was great. But we talked about Maurice Strong and this UN-supported eco-religion. I even touched a little bit on the Maitreya movement, which is a really interesting aspect of this whole thing. Benjamin Creme, interesting character. And I wanted to correct myself. I made the mistake the other stream. I actually mixed up in my soy-clogged brain. My memory has been so soyified just from the sheer level of soy that's being pumped out into the ether these days. I mixed up Benjamin Creme, who was the guy that was pushing the whole Maitreya movement via the UN. I mixed up him and Maurice Strong. Maurice Strong he was a billionaire. He was essentially the Rockefeller of Canada. Very tied in as far as business structure, foundation structures go with the Rockefeller Foundation as well, which we mapped out. So, Maurice Strong, the UN, UNESCO, these international education-based NGOs, right? The health-based NGOs like the Rockefeller Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, have all been pushing for the Green Revolution and the Gene Revolution. All right, first it was the Green Revolution, taking over the food supply, the modernization, and the essentially the application of a technocratic control grid around our food supply, based around patenting seeds, patenting life forms, manipulating genetically these life forms, and making processed food to feed to the slaves, right? The plebs. That was in Brave New World, the betas, they'd call them, I think. Was that Brave New World? It was betas and alphas. So these are the foods that we're being conditioned to accept. And we've been conditioned to accept these for years now. In fact, we've looked at often the 1929 Lord Birkenhead article. Lord Birkenhead wrote an article about the future of humanity. In Cosmopolitan magazine, this was published in 1929. I got it on my little side desk over here. Here's Lord Birkenhead. Cosmopolitan magazine in 1929. No other article of its type seems to have been printed in those years. I've actually looked through some of these databases at the old Cosmo magazines, and it's very hard to find an article that is as fascinating as this one. Save this for your children's children's children. There's a forecast of what the world will be like 100 years from now by the Earl of Birkenhead. So, the Earl of Birkenhead, this guy was a member of the Royal Society. He was an earl, hanging out with dudes like Huxley, hanging out with guys like Charles Galton Darwin, who was the grandson of Charles Darwin, who wrote the book The Next Million Years. And all of these people's publications over 100 years ago, they're writing about openly how they will be consolidating the food supply, patenting life forms, and growing food in laboratories, and how all future foods will be grown in a lab and grown artificially. This was said 1929 in this article. He wrote about how we'll need to actually take control of breeding as well, and all human breeding will be artificial and done in a laboratory. Fascinating, huh? Fascinating. Timothy Hudson says orthogonal is now a banned word. It's orthogonal. That's orthogonal to the point. The fact. Man. That was, I can't believe I sat there for 2 hours and like 20 minutes just showing the thought loop of these vegans. And every time they reach the same, they'd be like, oh, that's just nonsense. That's just gibberish. We get to make these assumptions. Let's move forward. It was great. What's up? We got people over in Ireland. What's up, guys? So yeah, Birkenhead, Lord Birkenhead, writing about the need for lab-grown meat in 1929. Talking about breeding people. The character of future inhabitants of any state could be determined by the government which happened temporarily to enjoy power. By regulating the choice of the ectogenetic parents of the next generation, the cabinet of the future could breed a nation of industrious dullards, or leaven the population with 50,000 charmingly irresponsible mural painters. And that's what we have. We've already got this. Now, we don't have test tube babies quite yet, but we already do have in vitro fertilization, which the same technologies are being pushed to sell us lab-grown meat. So in vitro meat growth, of who knows what type of cell cultures are going to be put into this, who knows what type of modifications are going to be done to the genes of these lab meats, these so-called clean meats that we're being conditioned to accept. Who knows what the hell these people are going to put in there. But these people are also talking about breeding babies in labs so that you can have a generation of industrious dullards or leaven the population with 50,000 charmingly irresponsible mural painters. and this is what we see. All right, through education, through the promotion of toxic culture. Hold on, I got to close the window. I got wind coming out here. Babe, can you bring me some water when you get a chance? If you hear? No one's there. So it talks about breeding a nation of industrious dullards and peppering it with mural painters to entertain the fools. Now, these are the people that want to feed us this crap. So we've got the Israeli food tech company Jet Eat makes vegan zero-waste 3D printed steaks from plants. Live kindly. And they put a picture of real meat here. You can't make a steak like that in the lab. You see how the collagen is sticking together and the meat is separating, how the collagen is, there's ribbons of collagen and fat throughout the meat. You can't do that in a lab. You can't make marrow in a lab. You can't make liver in a lab. You can't make a heart in a lab. Right? These are the best parts of the animal. The liver, the heart. Hold on, I'm going to go close the window behind me. So we're being conditioned to accept this, and we have to not accept this. We cannot accept this. This is an incrementalist way of using operant conditioning to condition us with media, with imagery, and with repetition. Repetition is the greatest form of mind control. Repetition is the greatest form of mind control. Repetition is the greatest form of mind control. Which is why you see stuff like, in the same day, all these major media organizations publishing articles, these fluff opinion pieces by sociology professors, right? These like crazy purple-haired lesbian professors promoting the idea that you can't criticize vegans or use a hater, and that people hate vegans, and that there's so much hate going on against poor vegans. You have a couple days later the same media organizations talking about, we got to tax meat. Meat needs to be taxed. We got a vegan troll. Vegan trolls like to like to jump in here. Vegan diet is the future. Meat should be illegal, says an anonymous person. Some bot in the chat. Some NPC in the chat. So Jet Eat is making vegan steak with 3D modeling technology. The Israeli-based company is making vegan meat, specifically steaks, roasts, and stews, with the help of proprietary meat 3D modeling, food formulations, and printing technology. Food ingredients first reported. They say it has the look, feel, and flavor of other animal products. Other animal products, like shit. It has the look, feel, and flavor of other animal products. And then you have to put an asterisk and put at the bottom in a footnote, like feces. In addition to being meat-free, Jet Eat's vegan meat is also sustainable. Oh, it's sustainable. Well, there you go. You're using the magic words. Sustainable. It's sustainable. It's progress. It's amazing. It's sustainable. Existing plant-based options can imitate ground beef, for example, but beefsteak is currently impossible. Despite a lot of innovation in texture, flavor, protein ingredients, and even cellular agriculture, steaks are not found yet. By using our unique technology, we can bring the industry much closer to the real experience of cooking and eating meat, and especially beef. Ben Shitrit, great name, Ben Shitrit, says Jet Eat is already working with chefs and butchers to help test and showcase their products in different ways. However, these experiments will be private for the next 6 to 8 months. Following that, we intend to provide access to our products and food service, but mostly in order to expand the range of inputs for product improvement. So Ben Shitrit pushing that, pushing the 3D printed meat, basically saying, yeah, I swear it tastes really good. Yeah, we're going to show it to our friends for a few months, and then later we'll have it. I mean, it sounds to me like they're just trying to get a new round of funding. These things are always going to taste like shit. You're never going to be able to make a liver in a lab. So I think increasing the demand for liver, heart, brain, people are wanting more grass-fed beef. People are desiring, they're asking for it. And we do need to be pushing that, right? Like, I don't mind. There's a lot of people out there doing a carnivore diet. I definitely don't mind. You want to do the carnivore diet on just grain-fed or grain-finished beef that you get from Costco because that's what you can afford and that keeps you alive, healthy, and happy. I'm totally fine with that. But what I don't want to do is fall into the trap of these multinational corporations who have taken over a lot of they've taken over the grain industry and who have basically consolidated all the feed supply for these animals and made us think that it's totally necessary. It's not necessary that we use what they call it conventional agriculture. We can do these things organically without destroying the soil. And we need to start really publicly stating that we will not be taxed on our freaking meat. We will not be taxed for eating meat. These people are trying to raise the price of meat in the UK by like almost 100%. Or was it even more? I think it was even more for processed meats. I forget. You'll have to refer to the stream 3 days ago, 2 streams back, when we talked about this stuff. It is absolutely insane. So we need to let our voices be heard. Tell the FDA, the USDA, that these foods need to be labeled. That you can't try and sell us lab-grown meat as real ground beef. And we got to continue to eat nutrient-dense, whole, unrefined foods. The same guy comes into my chat every time and goes, "Help me, I'm a vegan, I'm suffering." I know you're trolling, dude. You're out of here. It's like the 5th time you've come to the stream with the same fake story. I know you're not for real. The growing acceptance of veganism. Forbes just declares that veganism is becoming more accepted. Why? Well, because these publications that are owned by the people who are pushing these foods on us and these ideologies on us are telling us that it's acceptable. They're conditioning you to believe that this is a good thing. So that when your son or daughter try to feed and malnourish your little child or their little child, when they try to feed their child a vegan diet, when they try to deprive their kids of the nutrition they need, that you won't say anything, that you'll think it's good. You'll say, yay, that's amazing. That's so good. Your kid's vegan? That's so cool. I hope you haven't chosen its gender yet. Maybe we should ask your 5-year-old if she wants to be a boy. You want a Winky? I can get you a Winky at the hospital. On Thursday, vegans around the world commemorated the creation of the V word. World Vegan Day was launched November 1st, 1994 to celebrate the 50th birthday of the founding of the UK Vegan Society. This day begins World Vegan Month, and recognition of it has grown exponentially in recent years with the rise of Facebook and social media sites, where those dedicated to plant-based lifestyles share memes and messages with all the ethical and health-related reasons to go vegan. They share memes and messages. It's amazing. They share memes and messages like vegan gains, making videos as a grown man, screaming at another grown man, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you, Tim Sheaf. Spreading the wonderful vegan message. Like Nature Boy, starting his own cult, malnourishing a group of women and impregnating all of them with his demon seed. Your peace reflections. Do you guys know what's his not Demon Man, Nature Boy? his harem are all pregnant. How crazy is that? So social media is allowing these cults to spread like wildfire. It's just this long pro-vegan propaganda article basically in Forbes. How many vegans does it take to screw up a meal? Commentary. Oh man, this is about some just vegans protesting, interrupting people's meals in France. But that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for there we go. Bill Gates and Richard Branson vow to beat world hunger with synthetic meat. They're going to beat world hunger. Most people do. They have armies of dummies on social media who are completely brainwashed into this ideology, who grew up in the public schools, who believe in materialism, who don't even believe in objective truth, who don't even believe in objective morality. We got these people marching in the streets to take away our rights to eat meat. Because the poor animals that we've never even been around. Because we live in coffin apartments in cities. Now, you don't see many rural vegans. There are no vegans in Ecuador, except in Quito and Guayaquil. ¿Por qué hay veganos en Quito y Guayaquil? ¿Por qué hay más idiotas en Quito y Guayaquil? En las ciudades, todas las ciudades son completamente llenos de degeneración. These degenerate cities, when you have these cities, you can socially engineer people in them. You can control the media that they consume. All of their food is brought in from other places, so then they become prey. They fall prey to industry, the industry foods, right? You fall prey when you live in a city, unfortunately. All your food's imported, and you end up eating a lot of toxic crap, processed junk food, convenience store food. And in these cities, people are living on a diet of social media and of television, and are not involved at all with the production of their food. And have no idea what it's like to actually touch an animal, to milk a cow, to slaughter their animal, to slaughter a chicken. No idea what it's like. I'm going to add a moderator. Megiddo Jones. Megiddo Jones, if there's any troublemakers, you can hide them if you want. It's nice to have one moderator during chats. So Andrew Scarborough is going to come on in a minute. Let's see if he's ready. Bill Gates and Richard Branson vow to beat world hunger with synthetic meat. They're going to beat world hunger with meat. They'll give us these fake problems about hunger, about sustainability. It's not sustainable. How can we be sustainable? Well, by doing everything the television tells us to do. We have to pay taxes on our breath. We have to pay taxes on our children. We have to stop breeding. And we have to allow the government to selectively breed for us. Timothy Hudson says, ask yourself, lives in a 500 square foot apartment in Canada. Debating veganism is all he has. That's the sad thing. Most of these vegans that are online vegangelizing, they don't even know vegans in real life. They barely know anything in real life other than video games and trolling. Right? They mob around with groups of like 100 people, and they all have 2 to 3 accounts, and they downvote videos after they get slammed in debates. It's pathetic. Alicia says, I love the sound of happy, healthy children playing in the background. Yeah, Ryder woke up. He doesn't look so happy, though. He's rubbing his eyes. They had a feast this morning. They had a feast on bone marrow this morning. It was fun. Nice. Looks like Andrew's just about ready. And that's why billionaires like Bill Gates and Richard Branson are funding this. They're not funding this because they want to save the world. They're funding this because they want to save their legacy. This is sustainable, not for humanity. Sustainable means for industry. And that's why they move money around, billions of dollars worldwide being moved around by these foundations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, to force this nonsense on cultures worldwide, which destroys their culture. You know, when you bring in the genetically modified foods, you're destroying this topsoil. You basically make people economically enslaved to it. They have to take World Bank and IMF loans out to buy the equipment with which to start industrially producing corn, wheat, and soy. And it totally destroys nations. When you look at what these people did in Argentina, it's criminal. So, Bill and Melinda Gates, Richard Branson are going to make us fake meat to save the world. So these people are heavily involved in Memphis Meats. Bill Gates also involved with Beyond Meat, the Beyond Burger. It just started pouring outside. I might have to stop soon if the rain gets too loud. You guys hear the rain in the mic. So the Beyond Burger, Memphis Meats, funded by the biggest billionaires in the world, both of whom publicly state that depopulation is one of the top priorities of their philanthropy. Lessening the human population is Bill Gates' #1 goal. But he wants to solve world hunger. No contradiction there, though, right? Strange times. Strange times. But guess what, guys? I'm about to hit up Andrew Scarborough. Andrew Scarborough has been 5 years plus, 5.5 years at least, on a ketogenic carnivore diet. He was the first dude I talked to on a carnivore diet. Andrew was making cricket bread, when most of us still thought kale was good for us. So Andrew's an OG carnivore dieter, calling us from the UK. Let's hit up Andrew. Make sure this works. What's up, bro? Thank you. Andrew Scarborough.
Hello, can you see me or hear me?
I can hear you. I can see the outline of you and the color of your blue blocker glasses. It's nice and dark in there.
It's my bedtime routine, so I can put on light if you want.
Well, I mean, as somebody putting out YouTube content, you want, visible, but as somebody who likes you and wants you to be healthy and happy, I know all about what happens when I stare at a computer screen at night. Keep the lights off, man. It's all good. We don't need the lights on. It's been a while, Andrew.
It has. I'm still here, still alive and kicking.
But you haven't eaten plants in 5 years. How are you still alive?
I don't know. You have to let me know why.
So 5.5 years ago, how did you get into this, man? What made you start a 100% animal food based diet 5.5 years ago when nobody was talking about this when you did it? Like now we've got, carnivore diet. A lot of advocates have been talking about this and kind of publicized it via, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's probably done more for the low carb community than almost anyone out there. So big shout out to Joe Rogan. Thanks a lot for everything you've done for keto and carnivore. Even though you're skeptical on carnivore, we all know you love it because you can't stop talking about it. But yeah, I mean, since that happened, this stuff has skyrocketed. But you were doing this 5.5 years ago. How did you get into that?
Yeah, I was surprised it became a thing and became this sexy kind of movement, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Definitely
Um,
sexy, right? You got Sean Baker, Big Jack Sean Baker. You got Michaela Peterson, right? You got all these people, all these good-looking people doing carnivore now.
yeah,
Before it was like
carnivore
me and you were
celebrities.
talking about cricket bread a few years ago, and I'm just like, this is going to be so funny to see people cringing in the comments about us talking about cricket bread and eating brains. But now it's everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think the insect thing has caught on, but there are
Not yet.
people talking about organ meats now, like Frank Tufano.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He
Frank
just
came
he
around.
just Yeah, he just kind of came up after the carnivore movement. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe he's a movement on from that, and then eventually we'll get to the insects and all the other stuff,
Me,
maybe.
me and you, we're like hipsters. We have to wait for everything to catch up. We've got to. Yeah, it's funny, man. So I mean, 5.5 years ago, you and I were talking. You were the only guy. You were the first person I talked to that had ever done an all, like, no plant diet. When was your
It was
diagnosis?
the,
When was your cancer
yeah,
diagnosis?
sorry.
When was your cancer diagnosis?
It feels like a lifetime ago now. It was in early 2013. So yeah, a while ago. Hang on.
Early 2013. Now I first talked to Andrew, I think in like mid 2014. There he is, dude. You look so good.
I'm wearing my Cannabis Patients Alliance
Nice, man.
shirt.
We smoke a bong rip in honor of that. No, I'm just kidding. Um, so
Because I may or may not have a new medication that's still illegal in this country.
what a shame, right? Criminalizing plants. Oh no, we're criminalizing plants, so we don't eat them. No, I'm kidding. Um,
Even if you want to grow hemp in this country, you have to pay this ridiculous fee and have a license for it.
it's absolutely insane. It's criminal, man.
And hemp is there's no, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's
I
no
won't say.
THC. There's no THC content in hemp. It's ridiculous. 2013 brain cancer diagnosis. I know we've talked about this many times, but I think it's been like 2 years since you've been on here. Um,
Yeah, it's
Brain
been a
cancer
while.
diagnosis, and is it astrocytoma?
Yeah, I had a very rare kind of anaplastic astrocytoma. All it means is it's a an astrocytoma brain tumor that displays aneuploidia. So it just means that it's an aggressive kind of astrocytoma, but
Yeah.
not quite glioblastoma. It's the level under that.
Yeah. And you had it removed, and you started using a keto diet, right? With plants.
Yeah, and then I was having a lot of intolerances to plants that I was consuming,
How did you know you had
which was
intolerance?
I just got severe migraines and visual disturbances,
Yeah.
and it would actually trigger more seizure activity for me. Initially, I went on the ketogenic diet not for the anti-cancer benefits, but to control my epilepsy, because from the tumor and the subsequent brain hemorrhage that I had from the tumor, I was having all these horrible seizures, and there were grand mal seizures as well. So I didn't have any kind of quality of life. So uh,
What are the seizures like? I mean, could you explain kind of what, I mean, what is that experience like to have a seizure and especially have it be triggered by food? I mean, would it be right after eating, or how soon after the ingestion would you be triggered by it?
yeah, so I have a type of epilepsy called reflex epilepsy, which means there's always a cause, like a stimulus for it. It's cause and effect. And I've been able to find just about all of my triggers for my seizures. There are quite a lot, and most of them tend to be diet related. So that's why I had this elimination diet. Initially, it was ketogenic. So I had some benefits from that, even though I was having these plant foods. But almost immediately after consuming those foods, I would get a reaction. And I noticed that the fewer foods that I ate, the more time in between that I would feel good because I was having,
So it was like fasting was really helpful.
yeah, I had most of the benefits. I was noticing most of the benefits from a few hours after eating, and then I would extend that further and I'd feel better and better until I ate again. And it also correlated with I seemed to have a window of on my blood ketone readings and my blood glucose readings that allowed me to have kind of like an optimal control of my symptoms. So I then just followed that, and it became more of a fasted diet, and I cut more things out, and eventually I went zero carb before I even knew it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, is this healthy? Is this safe? And I was constantly having people tell me that that wasn't the way to go for cancer, and that was just
Yeah.
crazy. So I just stuck with it. And then I researched more into it. And I was contacted by Paleomedicina,
What? When was this?
and I didn't know anything about them.
When did they contact
A
you?
few
What year?
years ago,
Yeah.
it must have been early 2015.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
And they asked me for an interview. So I did a thing for them that they put in Hungarian as well as English. And I didn't even know anyone was doing this before. I didn't know it was a thing, let alone a thing that was in clinical practice.
Right.
And that was termed a Paleolithic ketogenic diet in the literature. I could actually look at these articles online, in actual properly published papers. Um, and they were using it for epilepsy and cancer and having these fantastic results that were actually published as case studies. And so that was quite encouraging for me. So
Was
I
that the
continued
first?
doing.
Was that the first real encouragement you got? Because I mean, it must have felt like a jungle looking at all this information. Thinking of 2013 when saturated fat was still the devil, right? I mean, this wasn't probably wasn't easy to make the decision.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was first going on a ketogenic diet for the cancer, I didn't know anyone else who was doing that. So to then go on to zero carb ketogenic diet for cancer, well, I knew there was over the years there became more and more people doing this for cancer ketogenic diets, but not carnivore ketogenic diets. I still don't know many people, if any, really, who are doing that for cancer. I've been getting a lot of abuse lately, which I see as a good thing because it means that it's getting attention.
People are pissed, man.
Um,
People are really upset. This whole low carb and the carnivore thing is it's really harsh on the narrative because these people are eating no plants and they're not conceding that you need plants and that it's good and healthy. It's like they this whole plant-based meat and fake meat and lab meat thing is pushing forward. And then you have these people curing disease by pulling out all plants or completely remitting all symptoms of certain diseases with no plants. So it really throws a wrench in it.
Well, that's the thing. You're constantly being told you're just an anecdote as well, and yeah, just that you can't really doesn't prove anything. But my oncologist is quite interested, and
Yeah, I'm sure, right? And your oncologist right now, he's a very well known, renowned oncologist, correct?
yeah, people come from other countries to see him because he's one of the best. Um, and also, we're doing this thing for the BBC with the BBC at the moment,
Uh-oh.
where because well, what they're doing
I don't
is
trust
I
it.
don't know.
I don't trust it, Andrew.
I don't really either. That's why I'm doing it
Yeah.
because they've decided to do this program covering the ketogenic diet because it's becoming really popular and people are making lots of claims for it.
Hmm.
So what we're doing, there's a group of us. What we're doing is getting all these researchers and doctors and people using the diet clinically and researching the diet for various conditions and diseases, and just throwing all the evidence out there on this program so we can balance out the extreme stuff saying that these diets are dangerous and saturated fat
They're
and
gonna
cholesterol.
take clips of you and then edit it, and they're gonna deceptively edit it and make you say like
Yeah,
horrible racist things or something. They're gonna edit it so you say like this entire race can be eliminated when really you said like you can eliminate all carbohydrates from your diet. They're gonna be like all Asian people should be eliminated. And you're like, wow, oh, look at this racist ketogenic
well,
diet, meat eater.
that is funny because they have tried to play identity politics with this by saying that the carnivore diet, well, I don't know if they've done it with ketogenic diets, but they're trying to say that the carnivore diet is this far right
Yeah.
kind of movement,
Yeah.
which is
I noticed
crazy.
that. No, that's what
And,
everything. So right now, anything that goes against like status quo Fortune 100 narrative, it gets branded as far right. Whereas like under the Bush administration, it would be branded as leftist, right? So leftist used to be anti-war. Now, if you're against the war, you're going to be like a far right extremist. So it's whatever the fake government is at the time. Anybody in opposition is the far opposite end. But yeah, that's insane, man. They already said stuff like that.
yeah, anything that doesn't follow the status quo is just. I see it so much. I'm at a university where so many people are vegan, and
Yeah.
you get that pushed on you. And in London, it's huge at the moment. You
Oh
can't
man,
go anywhere without seeing vegan this and vegan that, and it's crazy.
it's amazing. And what about like students that you're studying with now? You're going for a PhD, aren't you, Andrew?
Well, that's the next stage. So
Yeah. You
yeah,
know what I love about Andrew? He's not one of these douchebags online that's out there waving, I'm going to get a PhD. I'm going to get a PhD. You have to listen to me. I mean, this guy, I mean, he's just genuinely exploring this from such a pure place of just trying to get better. You'll never, I don't think you'll ever see Andrew, hopefully not, knock on wood. But I don't think 10 years from now, if Andrew's got a PhD, he's going to be running around like Lane Norton saying, everything I say must be true because I have a PhD. Or, some of these other guys, Kevin Bass on Twitter, people like that. You're not going to see him appealing to his own authority, um, which,
well, what I can say is I have a PhD, so I'm
ooh,
studying me.
there you go.
I have,
Yeah.
I have medical notes and I have my own experiences,
So when did you
and I don't.
when did you become a Nazi? Okay. Okay. Watch them ask you that in your next session. Are they interviewing you like periodically, or how's that working?
Well, that's the thing. We're discussing all of this at the moment, and I'm getting together my kind of crew of cancer researchers and people who are collecting all the data, so that we have actual data to contest these claims of an extreme diet, a dangerous diet. So I've been thinking that I should film them filming me,
Yeah.
so that if they try and edit it to fit their narrative, they might watch this video actually.
Oh, I'm
But
sure.
anyway,
And then you're going to be associated with. They'll go find some things that I've said. They'll be like Andrew associates with this. They'll call me like an. They'll call you a neo. That you use the words neo or alt. That's how they do it now. So it's like these are alt diets. That's what they'll call it. They'll call it carnivore as an alt diet. It's the diet of the alt right. It's the neo alt diet. Neo Nazi alt diets.
I people telling me as well that red meat causes cancer, so if I die, it's my fault,
Now, you've been having pretty.
and I should go plant-based.
Well, I mean, as far as morally, yeah, it is your fault if anybody dies because you eat meat. But that's beside the point. Let's. I had a question. It was an interesting one. Oh, your brain scans, man. I mean, you mentioned cancer and red meat. You've been eating like a lot of red meat over the years, almost exclusive, not exclusively red meat. You eat brains and all the cool stuff as well. But what have the scans been showing
Yeah.
you with your progress over the years and your recovery?
Well, my actual initially the playing activity that was there was going down and went away, which I have. Well, to explain it further, type of scan which is called MR spectroscopy, and this is what I think all brain cancer patients adopting metabolic disease should have. What?
Dude, hey, we're breaking up. We're breaking up a little bit, Andrew. Let me see. It says poor network connection. Let me just reestablish the call and see if we get a better connection. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Andrew. Stupid Skype. Some days Skype is great. Some days Skype is awful. Skype doesn't like us today. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be cautious in the chat. I saw that, but we don't need to be too cautious. People say all sorts of stuff. It's just some people go way far with these things, and they really seem like they're trying to get people booted. How's that? You look better. It's better clearness in the picture now.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so yeah, so you were saying I asked you about brain scans, but you immediately the voice was chopping up. So what's up with those brain scans?
Well, I hope the connection's okay now.
Seems better.
Okay. Yeah, I have a type of scan. It's called MR spectroscopy, and it's looking at the bioenergetics of the area concerned. And what you're able to do, which is quite cool, is you're able to actually identify what kind of tumor it is by the fuels that it's taking up in real time. So you can actually see if it's taking, well, through the different. How do I explain that? just through the different troughs, you can see what fuels it's taking up.
What are you actually looking at? What are you visually looking at when you're seeing the fuel being taken up on these scans?
Well, it's looking at signaling, high signaling changes, and from that you can see if it's taking up choline or lipids or these different substrates.
I'm going to turn off my video to see if that gives us more bandwidth. Just so you'll be able to hear me, but you won't be able to see me. We'll see if that helps. Sometimes if I turn my video off, okay, Skype will behave. So when you're actually doing these brain scans, you're looking at the fuel that it's taking up. And have you noticed any changes throughout the years? I mean, you've had consistent scans.
Yeah, in that area now, it's just like normal brain tissue. And these scans are useful because even if you can't see any disease there might still be something there. But with this scan, you're able to detect change with visual, which is important to embed healthy brain tissue. So you're able to see if it's there, even if it's not visually there. If that makes sense. And that seems to have correlated. Well, I've experimented with a few plants, and it seems to have correlated with an improvement in my sensitivity these foods were high in salicylates and these other compounds. Well, it appeared to be salicylates and foods high in tyramine, and also just things like nuts. I don't know why, but yeah, nuts and dairy and avocado, broccoli, coconut oil. Yeah, because coconut oil is really high in salicylates. Okay, I'll give it a go. I can't hear sound.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Andrew? Let me see if I can get the sound. How about now, Andrew? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Andrew? Andrew, can you hear me? Hey, Andrew, can you hear me? Now can you hear me? Wait, hold on. I got it. Now can you hear me? Can you hear me, Andrew? Damn it. Andrew's back. I had myself. I always do this. I always mute myself. And all right. Let's see. Here's what I'm gonna do. Microphone. Allow. Done. Andrew, now can you hear me? Hey, Andrew, can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Andrew? Okay. Dang it. What's wrong with my mic? Let's see if I can use this microphone. Allow. Done. Hey, Andrew, now can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can read that. Yeah. Now can you hear me? Can you hear me? We might have to go back to Skype, but look how much better Google Hangouts is working. Why can't my mic pick up? All right, let's see. System preferences. Sound. Andrew? Hey, Andrew, can you hear me? Andrew, can you hear me now? I've changed my. We might just have to go back to Skype. I'm gonna call him on Skype now. Hangout's not working. Worked yesterday. Hey.
Aha.
All right. We're back on Skype. All right. Sorry about that. It was working yesterday.
It's probably my end.
No, it's definitely my end. It's definitely
Oh,
got
is
it.
it?
Well, maybe not. I'll blame you. It's Andrew's fault, everybody. So sorry. He'll pay you back for all your time.
I like your Juve setup, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
I have one of those as well.
Look. Oh. See it? Oh.
Oh yeah, in the corner. Yeah.
We've got a double Juve set up now. How have you been liking the red light therapy?
I definitely feel benefit. Normally at this time of year, I'm starting to go down into my not feeling as good, not having as much energy, and just mentally feeling not quite me.
Yeah, a lot of people get seasonal depression. I don't know if that's what you're pointing.
The main thing I notice just in generally over the years is now I definitely feel a lot more like me than I did before. I'm feeling a lot more normal and I can speak properly instead of having to think about words so much. It seems a lot easier to communicate.
Dude, your communication, it's like twice as fast as the first time we talked. I mean, we talked in maybe it was 2014 at the end or maybe 2015. I forget when it was we first talked. Last time we spoke, I told you that I thought you were speaking so much more clearly and so much quicker. And now, I totally forgot that the first time we talked, you were talking much slower. But yeah, I mean, it seems like you've recovered a lot of mental faculties.
Yeah, I definitely noticed a huge difference. And one of the other things about that is that I discovered something quite profound, quite big, in that I was clearly reacting to the contrast agent that was given when they have you have an MRI scan for cancer.
What is that agent? What are they using?
Well, for head MRIs, they give you gadolinium. It's a gadolinium-based contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing more research into it, and it used to be thought that it's completely excreted within 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely fine to have. It was declared as safe, but now more recent evidence is showing that not only is it not safe, it accumulates over time.
Oh.
So the more scans you have, the worse things get. And people are attributing their symptoms to the cancer, but more often than not, I believe that it's actually this toxicity to the gadolinium, which it's cumulative. So over time, it's retained in tissues more and more, including the brain.
Makes sense.
And it was actually causing me some cognitive deficits, and that area of my brain, the speech and movement area, was definitely affected because the last few scans that I've had, and I only have ones once every 6 months to a year now, I get to choose.
Nice.
I don't have them with contrast, and I've noticed a huge benefit. I also found some papers that are saying that it can actually cause progression of these tumors and recurrence. So it makes me wonder how many of these recurrent brain tumors are actually caused by the contrast agent.
That makes sense.
If you're diagnosed with a high-grade glioma, you can be having MRI scans every 3 months. Every 2 to 3 months, you'll be having an MRI scan because it's an emergency situation. They're monitoring you so frequently to assess what's happening in there. And if you're constantly having this toxic heavy metal injected into you, You know, it's and you can feel it as well, even if you're not someone who's if you have completely healthy liver and kidneys, you well, yeah, the kidneys. If you have completely healthy kidneys, you still have it's not fully excreted, and you can actually feel the you can feel the contrast. You get this kind of taste in the back of your tongue, um, and everyone gets this, and it's a highly toxic material that they're giving all these patients. And just when I found that in autopsies and biopsies, they showed that gadolinium is actually in brain tumors, um, and it's making these tumors worse. It just made me think I don't want to ever have this again. So
That's a bit discouraging. When was the last scan you had?
September,
Yeah,
so quite recently.
yeah. And it
Uh,
what did it show? What did you learn?
well, there's still no sign of disease, which is good, and there's also healing of the scar tissue. So
Yeah. And when you compare that with like typical other patients, how is your your progression and everything? I don't even know what you call it, treatment or what the standard. Um, yeah, how is your treatment progressing compared to the average of others who might have a similar?
well, my oncologist said it wasn't typical in a good way. He also was able to see, crucially, from the MR spectroscopy scans, which it's a type of scan that only a handful of centers around the world have access to. But I think everyone should, because this is what's actually telling you how the tumor is taking up fuels. You're able to then see if a ketogenic diet can actually have benefit for these patients. Because some of these high-grade gliomas, they actually have ketolytic enzymes. So they can actually take up fats for energy. They can actually use ketones for energy.
Do you measure your ketones still to maintain that ketogenic state? You mentioned earlier that you found there was a sweet spot of blood glucose and ketones for staying out of the seizure threshold. What was that sweet spot for you, and do you still measure and monitor that?
Well, interestingly, yeah, my sweet spot was 3 to 5
So
millimolars.
pretty high.
And if I slipped out of that even a little bit, I would have a breakthrough seizure. So, breakthrough seizure is where you can control you have your seizures completely controlled, but then something, for example, with me, it's reflex epilepsy. So, some kind of stimulus would cause me to have a seizure, like a seizure that's not in keeping with the current balance that I've attained.
Hmm.
So it's just triggered a seizure up that wouldn't have normally happened. So if I slipped out of that zone, that would happen. But now, interestingly, my over the years, my tolerance level has actually improved. So I can actually have lower blood ketones and achieve the same benefit. So I
Now,
don't have to have such
yeah,
high blood ketones anymore.
that's so interesting. Do you think that that's because you're more efficient at using ketones and your blood ketones tend to be lower, even, with more efficiency? Or do you think that's because of the healing and you just don't, like the ketosis matters less and less as you progress in your healing?
That's a really good question. I think it's probably more due to the healing, but they could be, um, what's the word? It could be both. I don't know.
Do you find
It's
that,
something I've thought about a lot.
yeah, it's a really interesting, that's an interesting one. It could be a combination of both. I don't think it could be both.
Yeah,
It's
sometimes you just don't know. It could also be that I've had alterations in my gut microbiome because I'm able to tolerate these foods again.
what foods are you
And
able to tolerate
before I
now?
was on the, sorry?
What foods can you tolerate now that you weren't able to eat before?
Well, I can eat avocado now and coconut oil and broccoli and all the
Wow.
things I couldn't eat before.
So,
I don't get migraines.
yeah. So I mean, those all have some salicylate. Avocado's got some oxalate in it, so you're able to eat. Do you eat a lot of it, or are you very cautious when you add new foods in, or how does it work?
Initially, I was very, very cautious because I still had like a tolerance limit to these foods. So I could have small amounts, and increasingly I can have more. But I still feel best on a carnivorous ketogenic diet. But it's nice for convenience to sometimes have some other foods.
What's your menu look like these days? Like, what's like your go-to meals? Uh-oh, reconnecting. There you are. We're back. Can you hear me?
Uh,
Did
yeah,
you hear the question? I asked, what's your menu these days? What are you eating?
yeah. Well, I have 2 meals a day, but on days where I'm working out, I have 3 meals because I'm able to do more exercise now, which is good. That
Yeah,
used to be a
last time we
trigger.
talked, you were just like, I'm going to add a little bit of exercise, and I know it's going to trigger me, but I'm going to find the threshold. You're a brave dude. I might find myself just laying in bed, like afraid of everything if I was getting it. But it just seems like you're constantly pushing right up to the limit and saying, all right, this is where I can go, and I'm going to push this further. It seems like you're on it.
Yeah, well, when I did exercise before, I needed exogenous ketones when I would have that feeling like I was about to have a seizure. And then
Salts?
that brought me back.
Salts or ester?
Salts. But I have tried the esters.
What do you think about the ketone salts? Because I usually find them pretty useless for like most people for fat loss and stuff, but you found
Mm.
for your seizures they were useful.
Initially, yes, but then they became less effective for me.
Hmm.
Also, the tricky thing with you have epilepsy is that the electrolytes with having the salts, it's a difficult balance.
What do you think
You
they
have to
do to
think.
electrolyte levels? How do you feel about their effect on that?
I think it depends on the salt preparation of the product in question. But
Do you have a preference on an exogenous ketone product that you have found has been useful for your epilepsy?
well, I was taking. It's a while now. I haven't had them for like a couple of years now, but or maybe a year and a half. Um, but I was having the one that doesn't have any sweeteners in because I don't do well with sweeteners.
Hmm.
Um, it was Patrick Arnold's Keto Sports. Yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
that's the only one I've tried.
That's, I think that was the best one I tried. I
Nice.
did try all of the other ones because they were pushing them on me and giving me free samples
I want a
in the
spokesman.
pyramid scheme type
Yeah, yeah. The
thing
the
that they do.
prove it's funny, man. People get trapped in it. You know what's funny? Like this is the first time this has ever happened. Who I had a client recently who was in our group coaching thing, and she was so attached to her, and she wanted to lose weight. She wants to lose body fat. So I'm like, look, the exogenous ketones are cool, but in my opinion, they're a waste of money if you're trying to lose body fat. We want to be able to burn your own body fat. And I tried to be so gentle with it too. It's just like, look, I know you like them. You spent a few $100 a month on them for the last 6 months. She might have been selling them too, but she was just like, I can't do it. I can't. I'm so confused now. I'm so confused. And she's like, I'm so confused. And she ended up saying like, yeah, I don't know what to do. She was kind of in a place in her life where she was very frantic about a lot of things. You know how people can get like that when we're. She was so freaked out by me telling her to drop the exogenous ketones if you want to lose body fat that she was just like, I can't do this. I give it up. I give everything up. I'm just like, all right, whatever.
Interestingly, I did lose quite a significant amount of body fat, but I didn't have much to lose.
You didn't want to
Just
lose it, did
because
you?
it was no, I needed more,
Yeah.
but they were suppressing my appetite so much that I just couldn't eat,
Mm,
and I got down to around 50 kilos, which for me is very light.
that's super
So
light. Yeah. What are you at right now?
I had to then put on 10 kilos in a year, and that was hard.
How did
Took
you
me a
do
year
that?
to
You
do.
you put on 10 kilos in a year, maintaining your seizure threshold for the most part, and on a was it mostly carnivorous diet, all carnivore? How'd you do it?
Yeah, it was very difficult to do. I felt nauseous a lot of the time.
What were you eating? We didn't finish your. Let's finish your current menu, and then we'll go over your weight gain protocol. So, you mentioned you eat, what was it, 2 to 3 times a day?
Yeah, 3 times a day, mostly now because I'm doing a lot more exercise.
Hmm.
I'm doing this body composition experiment at the moment to see if I can actually gain much lean tissue on the diet. I've done a similar thing before and it was quite interesting. So I'm seeing if I can beat my previous um, kind of composition ratios. See if I can have a more favorable
Yeah. What's your
lean tissue.
what time's your first meal?
Usually straight after I get up because I've heard that that's good.
I usually recommend that for people who have a lot of stress. Actually, I think we talked about that in the beginning of
Yeah,
the stream. We talked about meal timing. When people have high stress, like my wife, I mean, not that she has high stress, but she's got babies that wake her up at night and stuff. So, I mean, I think especially women who are nursing or nurses who work night shift, it's like trying to do crazy fasting can be hard. What do you eat for breakfast when you first wake up?
usually eggs, just eggs. Sometimes I'll have turmeric with that.
Nice.
So I do still have things like turmeric and ginger.
Uh huh. So
Uh,
turmeric, do you use an extract or just a straight turmeric powder?
I have the actual root,
Mm-hmm.
so I just grind it up and mix it with eggs. And I have my eggs raw, so I don't cook eggs.
With a yolk or with a white?
Yeah,
I find myself
I
throwing the
know.
whites away now. I like the yolks only for some reason.
I know some people react to the egg whites, so that's interesting.
I don't know if it's that I react to them. I just like how it feels, just the yolk, raw yolk. So I'll take it, I'll crack it, kind of pull the white out, and just throw the yolk in. How many
I
egg?
think I can react. I think I can react if I was to have supermarket eggs, which I try not
Really?
to. Yeah,
So you find that quality of food does affect your reaction and your body.
yeah, I've found a huge difference. I did try having some supermarket foods, even ones that said they were grass-fed
Hmm.
or pasture-raised for eggs. And I did notice benefits. I don't know if that's like just a thing in my head or that it was different, but I definitely noticed a taste difference for when I get food from the local butcher that I go to, where I know the actual farm that it's come from and everything about the animal. I know how it's been raised, and I can actually go and see the animals if I want to as well. So
So Andrew likes to touch the animals before he murders them and consumes them for their flesh. He likes to torture them first. So how many eggs do you have for your first meal?
3 to 4 usually, more like 4 now because I'm trying to do this body composition experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to have more, closer to 30 grams of protein, which is hard for me to get in a meal
Mm.
because I still have to attain my therapeutic levels of blood ketones. But eggs are good food for me. They don't really change that
So
much.
3.0 is what you're aiming for most of the time.
And yeah, I have to eat very slowly as well.
Mm-hmm.
That affects me a lot.
Interesting. Why
Because
do you?
if I eat too quickly, I can have some seizure activity. Every time I eat, I do get this very low level seizure activity.
Yeah.
I just have to make sure I have enough fat in the meal.
So the fat to protein ratio is really important for your therapeutic ketosis maintenance.
Yeah.
What kind of fats do you do?
Um, well, I try not to add too much fat now.
Are you
I
trying to
try to
gain
have
weight
more,
though?
yeah, I try to have more natural fats from
Mm.
the animals. So I have a lot of bone marrow
Yes.
and I get the actual just fat from very fatty cuts of meat.
How do you
And
eat the marrow?
my
How do you do marrow?
I have lots of sweetbreads, which is naturally very fatty
Do you eat the marrow raw?
most of the time, or lightly cooked. usually lightly.
Is that your favorite fat? I think that's my favorite fat. Bone marrow and then and brain. I think are probably the best fat on the animal.
Yeah, they have a nice brain has a nice kind of creamy egg taste to it, and the marrow is quite a rich kind of. It's just a nice taste.
How do you get your marrow bones? Do you get them sliced long way, or do you just get the whole bone, or do you get them like I like them in 1 inch sections? So it's like I get 1 inch of bone marrow. It's almost like a tablespoon of fat with each one.
I get the whole bone, so I have to kind of scrape it out. So.
Do you have a special? They used to have like marrow spoons in like a couple hundred years ago when people were eating these foods all the time. And they always talk about you've seen a lot of old texts talking about the marrow and the fat of the animal being the best. They used to have these special long like spoon butter knife type instruments that they would use to scoop out the marrow. How do you get it out?
Well, I have a similar kind of instrument, but I don't think it's made for that. I think it might be something that is from a fondue set, actually.
Oh, nice.
Because I was born in Switzerland and we used to have fondue. So
Wow. I'm sorry for the noise. You guys, you probably hear background noise, but it's pouring rain outside. Let's see if I can show. That's the window. That just gets washed out. You're getting it like a typhoon showed up.
you have London weather in Ecuador.
It's annoying, but we need it because it's so dry. Our cows, our cows are getting hungry. They keep pushing out of the gate to try and get to the next pasture. But now we have rain.
If you stop eating meat, it will stop raining.
Oh, right, right, and the climate will stop changing every day.
Exactly.
Exactly. Hashtag science right there. Dude, I'm so fascinated with the BBC thing. I think it'd be so interesting to have that going on. I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, filming for a BBC documentary of how little trust I have for the BBC. Just how, I mean, but these are the people who protected Jimmy Savile for like 20 years. I can't believe people take them seriously. I really hope they treat it well, and I hope they're respectful to you, because you are one of the most kind, honest, and respectful people that I've ever seen talking about his experience with this stuff. And I don't just, I'm not just saying that to make you feel good. It's like I would be so pissed at them if they tried to put you in a hit piece about keto. I'd be really upset. I know they're gonna do a hit piece on keto, but if they try and include you, man. Damn it. Skype's screwing up again. All right, we're back.
Okay.
So
that was
what's the second meal of the day?
Well, I alternate my organ meats, so it's difficult to say what one day looks like compared to another. But usually the first meal is eggs. Second meal is usually sweetbreads. Third is usually lamb hearts. I tried I tried beef heart first, but it wasn't fatty enough, so I just have lamb heart now.
I like beef
very
heart.
fatty
You definitely need to add fat to beef heart though, for sure, because it's not fatty at all.
Too lean for me. So lamb heart's my favorite, and it's very cheap. So, when that meat tax comes in, I'm gonna need my lamb hearts.
Oh man, what is the actual rate on the meat tax? I read it the other day, but I forget. Was it like 160% on processed meats or something like that?
I think they'll tax you more if you're more right wing. So they'll kind of.
Oh shit. But you eat meat, so the more meat you eat means the more Nazi you are. So it's like you're literally Hitler.
Well, I think how they'll do it is they'll look at how much of a white male you are. Yeah. And the further white you are, they will tax you.
So, oh man. So, but if you find a tanning, like if you tan a lot, you might get less tax. How do they? Oh, crazy. They'll check your social history, your social media history, and all your private messages on social media, and they'll give you a social credit score, and you can use those social credits to buy meat if you want. right? So that's a really enlightened way to do it, just like communist China.
Well, even though I eat meat, I can just tell them I identify as a vegan, and they might
It's true.
put the price down for me.
Oh, can we identify as vegans but not be vegans? That'd be cool.
Well, you can identify as whatever you want to.
Dude, we can all identify as vegans and keep eating meat. Problem solved. Modernity proven right there.
You have to just use the system against itself. I think that's how
You have to turn it
that's how
against
we
itself.
fail.
Man. I can't believe this meat tax. Are you a little bit upset about this the meat tax even though you're able to make jokes about it, which which shows that your brain is functioning properly. If you can laugh at all this craziness, you're balanced in your neurochemistry cuz man, sometimes I just get pissed. It's like freaking meat tax? Are you kidding me?
Well, I know my local farmer, so even
Hmm.
even if that happens, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem if he's giving me free brains and things, you know.
Well, now that you've outed yourself publicly and admitted that you intend to bypass your meat tax, that's crazy, man.
Well,
You eat brain raw?
I could
You would cook it?
I could also just breed insects, so I don't have to eat meat anyway.
I like steak
Well,
though.
that's technically meat, but
Steak's so
it's
much
different.
better. Brain is way better than uh, than beetles, in my opinion. I still haven't tried insects though, so I'm not.
Yeah, how can you say if you haven't tried it?
I'm a hypocrite. That's how I can say.
You need to try it. You need to film it too. I'd
Yeah,
like to see.
nobody does crickets or anything here. In the
Not
States,
yet.
you can just go to a pet store and get crickets.
You should definitely try the Eskimoles. I still haven't tried that.
Eskimoles. Are they big?
The
What are those?
the large. They're termed insect caviar because they're so nutrient dense. They have a they have an omega-3 and 6 ratio that's similar to salmon, wild salmon.
Yeah, whenever I think of eating bugs now, I think of you see the Blade Runner reboot, the Blade Runner 2049. In the first Blade Runner, there was a lot of bugs in the future too, in the dystopian future, but in the new Blade Runner reboot, it is raining so freaking hard right now. Too hard. It's enough. No more. Chill. In the Blade Runner reboot, there was a scene where the protein farms, and it's just these huge pools and these vats of like grubs, and they made them the big white grubs that here we get these things here. I forget what they're called, but they're disgusting. They're like white and they have gray insides. Um, and yeah, that was a major theme in Blade Runner and in their dystopian version of the future is the bug eating. I wonder if that's going to become big soon.
Well, isn't it funny how people are more focused on they seem to be more receptive to the idea of lab-grown meat than having maybe a burger that's made of insects,
Isn't that
insect
weird?
meat.
I feel like
Why that?
people are so disconnected from reality. I feel like I think we've been conditioned. I think what's really actually happened is we've actually been conditioned intentionally over generations to accept just a false reality and believe that it's normal, right? I mean, when you look around us, like we live in a very curated environment, and I think that subconsciously people think that if something is in white with plastic, that it's safe. But if it comes from if there's dirt near it or if there's blood near it, then it's somehow dirty. Right? Like when we go get our meat here and you go to a butcher, we go get our meat here. I just went meat shopping today. It's like they're just chopping up the animal right there. They had just slaughtered it either hours before or the night before, and it's super fresh. And it's to me that's safe food where it's like this isn't
Yeah.
in a plastic wrap. I don't know what it was, So if something's plastic in a shrink wrap thing, I don't know if there's been some desiccants sprayed on it or if it's been, dyed to look red when really it would be turning gray. Like I like my meat fresh where it's the first day when you get fresh meat, it's really tough. And then after it sits in the fridge for a day, that same piece of meat will be much softer. So I don't know. I like to be very, very close to my food source. I think you're in a similar frame of mind, huh?
Definitely. And I think your meat probably doesn't have insecticides sprayed on it like the vegetables might be.
Well, there's pesticide use in Ecuador on people's properties, so the cows probably end up eating some glyphosate around, but yeah, no, they don't spray it on the actual meat. They spray insecticides on meat, or the plants that they're eating.
No, I was just saying it
The,
kind of
the
it's less
glyphosate.
likely, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's a lot less. There's probably a lot less glyphosate, but the thing about Latin America is industries come in and they tell people that this is how you increase your crop yields and this stuff is super safe. And you have people spraying glyphosate with no mask or anything. They just think it's candy. People get brain damage here because they're not properly. Industry doesn't educate people on the proper use of it, and there's very little control over it. So in some areas, pesticides in Latin America can be an even bigger problem than in North America, where there's more regulation. If that makes sense, it's a shame. Where we live, luckily, and on our property where we have our cows, there's never been any pesticide use ever, and there's spring water.
It's crazy.
So
Yeah, I often with the whole insects thing. I know I keep going on about it, but
I
it's
love
the
it.
perfect argument to give to any vegan. They just don't know how to answer it. You just say, "Would you eat insects?" And why not?
If you would
Because
die, if you're on a desert island, they say that if they were on a desert island, they still wouldn't eat an animal or a fish, and which is a total
well,
lie. Um,
the thing is, if you know about cultivating plants, you need to kill so many snails and
yeah,
uh, yeah, so many different insects
for
and
sure.
trillions of microorganisms as well.
Yeah, no, I
Where
mean
do
they're
you?
conscious animals with a nervous system and they have eyes, and that's vegans say, well, if it's conscious, we have to reduce their suffering. Of course, they can't define conscious or suffering. They don't know how to tell if something's conscious or not because their worldview. Most of these people are materialists, so they really can't get past stage one of the argument, and they'll spend 2.5 hours pretending that they can get past stage one, like I did with vegan stains. And ask yourself, shout out to those cute little boys the other day. But yeah, there's a major, there seems to be a major divide there, because those insects are conscious, but somehow their lives matter less than cows, whose lives somehow matter
Well,
more than humans.
also there is evidence to suggest that insects actually don't have receptors for pain like other animals. They don't
Ah,
actually have a central nervous system that can feel pain. They have innate mechanisms that get them away from pain,
yeah.
but they don't actually feel pain.
Well, how about, okay, so then that if that's true, well, if it's pain, what if we give the cow a huge dose of fentanyl, and just give it a blissed out drug induced death? Like, what if you give it a heroin overdose to die? That's a very pleasant way to die. So there's no pain, there's no suffering. Um, I wonder what their answer to that would be. But I mean, you don't need consistency or any of that stuff if you're making claims for veganism. It's just emotion. I feel a lot of it's just, well, I think it's bad and I feel like it's bad, and I've connected my identity to these feelings, so therefore I will say that all the bugs don't matter when they're threshed up, and the rats that are they're getting destroyed with the wheat threshers and stuff like that. That doesn't matter. It's just the cows.
Yeah.
I can't believe
Or
you're in the university, dude. You're 30 now, right? Or how old are you?
33, so I'm older than you.
You're 33, dude. You're 2 years older than me. I can't believe you must be so patient. I can't believe it.
Patience. In what way? In what respect?
Well, I just remember sitting the last year in the university for me was 2008, and it was kind of insufferable, just the level, because and that wasn't there was the start of the Occupy thing started, and it kind of started on the campuses that it started at Santa Cruz and at Berkeley, and we had kids who were interrupting classes and occupying the what's it called, the faculty center or whatever at UC Santa Cruz, demanding we want it all free, we want it all free, world global socialism now. And it just, to me, my university experience was very interesting. I had I took certain classes in the humanities that were just hilarious, as far as like sociology professors and stuff, like purple haired girls teaching us about how sports are part of the patriarchy, and extreme sports and mountain climbing and mountain biking are basically like aggression from males and they're exclusive to males, and women are. It was just crazy. Like some of the things that were being taught was so insane and so inane. I just it was very hard for me to sit down in some of these classes and not just be like, yeah, you're full of shit. There was also the IPCC thing came out where it was proven there was leaked emails in 2008 or 9, I forget which year, about a lot of data being intentionally misrepresented and falsified to prove climate change and push international carbon taxes, which 10 years later they're still doing this crap, pushing carbon taxes on people. So there was, and I was taking a biology class, and it was just the level of programming, the level of inanity. I couldn't deal with it. I felt like there was just so much. I felt like it was dumbing me down. So I stopped. I was going to try to become I was going to try to leverage a master's, or I was going to go into chiropractic. So I was taking certain biology courses, and it was just like, I got over it. So I decided I'll leave it at my bachelor's degree and go figure something else out other than academia. I thought I wanted to stay, like, when I first got into university, I loved it. I was just like, this is so cool, my first year. But then as I kind of matured and saw what was going on, it became more and more ridiculous.
I loved it when I first went to university because we didn't have Facebook or anything.
Yeah, same
It's
here.
2004.
Yeah.
2004.
Yeah.
I still feel they're about the same age, though. I don't feel like I'm much older.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, 2005 was when I went.
I more or less look the same, but I was much more muscular.
Well, you're putting on muscle now? 10 kilos or 10 pounds? You put on
10 kilos, but I can't ever get to the stage that I was in my early 20s. That was just freakish.
Well, that's a strong word. You can't ever.
I don't really want to because I was pushing the limits of what my body was capable of. I was pushing myself out of my natural way my body should be.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of young men do. They try to do that.
Yeah, I think they do too. I had this story popped up. Here's one of the last anecdotes of university that just cracked me up. So I had this friend, and he was a lit major. And he would take, when you're a humanities major, you end up taking courses in other aspects of the humanities. So you might end up, if you sign up late for classes, which I think is what happened to him, you might end up taking like a fem studies class or something. You get stuck with
Sounds like a nightmare.
He didn't get stuck in one of those classes. He thought it would be interesting, I guess. I don't know if he intentionally took this class or not, or if it was the top on his list, but he ended up in an African American studies class. And in this seminar, he walked into class one day, sat down, and of course it's mostly white kids with dreadlocks and chicks with pink hair, like lesbian girls with pink hair. And then there was like one or two black kids in the class, he said. And the instructor, or the guy that was running the course, grad student running this little class, he was a white guy. My buddy sits down in this class, and everybody starts looking at him weird, and like a few people whisper to him, and then they start talking to him and lecturing him about his shirt. And they said that his shirt was racist. He had a shirt that had a picture of a gorilla with a thought bubble with a banana in it. And they told him that shirt was racist, which just shows, analyze that as you want, but who's the racist?
I've actually had similar experiences. I've been told by white feminists that I have white privilege, even though I'm mixed race.
Yeah, but you're going to have to prove that mixed race.
I showed them my 23andMe, and
they said, okay, we love you. You could be a victim with us. It's a weird culture nowadays, man. It's
very strange. You just have to laugh about it.
Yeah, and that's the only way to kind of really disarm it, is just people have to be able to laugh about it and point out how ridiculous it is, and then it will eventually it'll hopefully peter out and people will stop pushing it so hard. But it's going a little bit. There still seems like there's a big push with we had last week. You saw the articles on meat being the vegans are being attacked online and stuff like that, which is kind of over the top. Yeah, the people are pushing back against the vegan movement, but I've never seen any group of people or any religion act like some of these people representing so-called veganism online, if anybody else acted like that from any other group in society, uh, they would be considered like monstrous and dangerous. But these people, the things they're allowed to say behind the banner of veganism, it's just it's pretty over the top.
Yeah, they're a protected group, definitely. I find that.
They need protected class status for sure. I mean us. I mean we shouldn't be able to criticize those poor people. They're just trying to save the world, and all these dangerous neo-Nazi meat eaters out there. It's like that's the narrative in some of these people's heads. Like, oh, these neo-Nazi meat eaters. They probably Trump eats meat, probably, huh? It's like it's just this weird, like very deranged thinking that goes on these days. But it makes for some great laughs. That's for sure. I like the NPC meme lately. That was a fun release. Seeing the NPC stuff, non-player character. I love that.
Yeah, people get very sensitive about these things, but you have to be able to, even if you're the target of these jokes, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. I think that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Well, if you can't laugh at yourself, if you take yourself that seriously, you're going to be in for a harsh reality check when the glass house shatters, because it does.
One of the funniest places that I've ever been to is a cancer patient's waiting room. Just especially if you have prostate cancer patients, they tend to be the funniest.
They're funny. Why are they funny?
They're just always making inappropriate jokes about the situation. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
They're lighthearted. They accept it. I guess when you come close to death like that, it does do something to you psychologically and spiritually, I would say. I mean, do you find that you see life a little differently now after all this really close call with death?
100%, yeah. And I've lost a lot of friends to it as well. It's
Mm.
had family affected now, so
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely think differently about life and everything, and I just try to be philosophical about death and life and appreciating every day and all those cliches. All those
But Andrew,
cliches are actually
Andrew, in your look, you've come so close to death, and you know what suffering feels like by being so close to death. Why is it that you choose to continue eating animals, and why do you think you can justify eating animals and making that suffering a part of your being? Do you,
circumfly.
the circle of like, oh, you bastard, literally Hitler. Do you get like I mean online? I know you do. Everybody gets a lot of criticism if you eat meat or are human, and you get on the internet. You're gonna see the vegan choir, the choir boys of veganualism. But do you get it in real life much, like with your school being at a university and being outspoken about using a carnivorous diet as treatment for your cancer? Do you feel like do you get backlash?
Yeah, well, I got kicked out of the Nutrition Society a few times.
What
But
did you do? Did you ask a hard question?
all I did was contest the theory that they had about saturated fat and cholesterol.
Oh, no, no, no. That's called
And
disinformation and hate speech and fake news. That's what it's called. Fake news.
I had a very overweight public health nutritionist tell me that I was being irresponsible and dangerous.
You're like, yeah, 5.5 years, my tumor has not come back. I feel better than I did when I started, and I'm healing. How rude, man. What a jerk. It's like
It's funny.
it's
I also get people who say the ketogenic diet is only good for people who are very ill, but for a healthy person, it's dangerous.
just dangerous. Yeah, and where's the cutoff? Like where on the illness to health scale are you allowed to implement ketosis? And how do we know when it's dangerous? What moment does it become dangerous
It,
and not medicine?
it's just funny that it's healthy for someone who's very ill, but not healthy for someone who's
Yeah.
healthy.
You get that from the vegan community too. It's like, well, the carnivore diet, it may be okay if you're going to resolve your gut issues temporarily, but you're not getting to the root of it. And it's like, what are you talking about? So getting to the root of it, according to the people who say you shouldn't do a carnivore diet because it's very bad and it's bad for your health. You're getting temporary remission of symptoms, but it's all going to come back in the future. It's all going to come back to bite you in the ass. you know what they'll tell you to do? They'll tell you to take antibiotics to wipe out your gut flora and then take probiotics, and that's the solution. So it's like, you don't think a lot of these people have already tried this? You don't think all these people that feel like they're forced into a carnivore diet didn't already take your damn oregano oil, haven't already been on rounds of antibiotics to try and treat their Crohn's, their IBS? It's kind of funny to me. It's like these people act like nobody's
Well,
gone through this functional medicine thing already when they reach carnivore. A lot of those people have.
you can heal the gut on a carnivore diet, so it's just they don't know that. I don't think it's not like you're just getting rid of the kind of trigger foods. You're actually also able to heal the gut better. That's what I think anyway.
Absolutely, man.
And
Mhm.
I also have caprylic acid, so I think that has some effect on the gut as well. I
Now,
have that quite
that's
routine.
interesting. So the caprylic acid that you use, I like that stuff too. I don't use MCT, but I never use it, but I do have bottles of C8 caprylic acid because I prefer that to MCT. I do like it. Feel a little boost of energy from it. Digest real easily. You mentioned salicylates earlier being in coconut oil. You don't get any reaction to C8, but you did coconut oil in the past, right?
Yeah, I never had any reaction to these medium chain triglycerides in isolation. It was only with the coconut oil.
Mm-hmm.
Found that quite interesting.
That's kind of
But
weird.
it was quite nice to have that, to be able to have MCT oil and caprylic acid on its own. So
Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
what time is it there? Is it
it
like
just
10 o'clock at night there? What time is it?
almost.
What time do you usually get to
But
bed?
my sleep quality is really good. I've had a really good sleep quality recently. I don't know why.
I think red light
Because I've
therapy
had
for me, that Juve, that light we were talking about earlier, that thing is probably the best thing for sleep quality for me. In the evening, I use it.
But also, I think it could be because of getting AM sun as well. Just
Oh
even though
yeah,
the sun isn't up as early now, I get out as soon as I wake up
yeah.
and I just have a long walk and then the sun's rising while I'm walking. I think that helps
Oh
my
yeah,
sleep at the end of the day.
that's really cool. Yeah, I love the
And
AM
the
sun.
exercise, yeah, so I think also the exercise and just my way of thinking now. Just I'm a lot more positive than I used to be. And I think more about my social interactions and reducing stress. So
Seems like you have a lot more
yeah, I
fun.
think
It seems like you're having fun. I remember last time we talked, you'd gotten out of a relationship, and it was a rocky time. But now, it's like you're cracking me up. You're making funny jokes. It seems like you're having a good time, man. It's really nice to see. I think I'm almost at 2 hours now streaming, so I guess I wrap it up. I could talk to you all day, but let's yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about what we started talking about in the very beginning when you showed me your shirt. Show us the shirt again, and can you explain to me why you're wearing this shirt and what this means? And
so. This is United Patients and Alliance. They were lobbying for the. It's a group of doctors and patients and even some MPs who were lobbying the government in this country to have a wider use of um, cannabis as medicine. So to have it legal, at least for medicinal use, as it is in other countries where you can have like an exemption card to allow you to have access to the actual plant, not just these pharmaceuticals.
right.
Even the pharmaceuticals you can't really get access to.
Well, in the pure
But
pharmaceutical
they
extracts, like the pure THC extracts and stuff like that, they're very dysphoric very often, and they don't have the same effects.
they also cause side effects that the plant would not. So I can get on private prescription. I can get a product called Sativex, which causes it's a balanced ratio of THC and CBD.
Hmm.
So it's a 1-to-1 ratio that they can give cancer patients to who are having chemotherapy um, privately, and you have to really convince them to have it. But it causes these ulcers in the mouth, which can be quite bad. Quite.
Yeah, and that shows you, well,
Uh,
what's it going to do when it goes further down?
yeah, but in the actual natural form, it doesn't cause those side effects at all.
Hmm.
It's much easier to tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would rather take have the actual oil from the actual plant,
Yeah,
just
what's
the
up with that?
extracted oil.
Where you stand on that in the UK right now, as far as legalization and patients' access to medicines and plants that grow naturally that are banned and demonized?
You can only get it if you have, well, previously you couldn't even get it for these conditions. They've changed it recently. You can get it, absolutely beg your GP and they understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Even then, you have to see a specialist. Um, if you have a child who has a seizure disorder where they have uncontrolled seizures that the medication can't control, and you need to really prove that your child is going to die, and even then they'll go, I don't know. Or you have to have MS. If you're an MS patient, you can have it on private prescription as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
but again, you have to practically beg for it, and you have to really put your case forward. It's quite a laborious process. It's not much fun.
it's kind of
You can
critical.
imagine if you're a mother with a child who's having status epilepticus, where they could die at any moment, having these life-threatening seizures, and you're trying to convince someone that they need this drug that's legal in other countries. That's the only thing that's going to work.
Yeah.
These patients have even tried ketogenic diets often, and the only thing that works is the
Yeah.
cannabis
Yeah,
oil.
no, I've seen cases of this, of parents who've got kids just seizuring. Nothing else works. They give them cannabis. The government comes and
And they need
takes them
some of
away.
the THC as well. It doesn't work if they just have the CBD. People
Yeah.
don't
No, they
understand that
need
as well.
both. They need the
There's a lot.
mix of CBD oil doesn't work for seizures just like that. You need the CBD with the THC, and whole plant extracts work the best. And the CPS in the U.S. will take kids away in certain states. Parents are having their kids robbed from them and put in foster homes and put in basically just thrown out there to the wolves of these um, Jimmy Savile like people who run CPS. Um, uh, I'll edit that out so the BBC doesn't get offended, because I know they love Jimmy Savile at BBC. But yeah, this is maybe we should wrap it up. It's been great talking. I'm gonna finally get a stream that's under 2 hours, which I almost never do. They always run way too long. This is great. I'd love to have you on again, man. I really, really appreciate you taking time out your night to hang out. Let's do it again soon.
Definitely. I'll let you know how the documentary goes if they decide to still do me.
If they even include you in it, yeah, yeah, I'd love to see how that goes when that finally comes out. Um, next time I'd love to talk about your mom and everything. I mean, how's she doing right now?
Not too good, but we're trying other things and keeping positive.
Good.
She tried deuterium depleted water and hyperbaric oxygen on a strict ketogenic diet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but sometimes, well, we have a tricky issue with her cancer because there are we're having to take some legal action because of how it was caused.
Yeah.
It was caused by osteoporosis medication she was taking.
Yeah.
We found a definite link, and it was definitive. So,
Well, I really,
to have that actually,
I hope that, I
to be
really
able
hope,
to have that proven is, yeah,
yeah, you guys are gonna have a fight on your hands, man.
yeah.
Well, good thing
But
she's got you to fight for.
also the second cancer was caused by treatment for the first, so it's more difficult to treat. Um, but what you have to do is just try everything and not give up, because there's always hope.
Yeah.
And what we're trying now is a drug combination approach
Good.
with non-toxic drugs that target these metabolic defects. So you're targeting multiple pathways. At this stage, diet alone will not give the benefit. So
Yeah, and red light, how's she feeling? You getting her under the juice?
yeah, she does that twice a day.
Does she feel better with it?
Definitely, yeah. It helps a lot with pain.
Yeah, and relaxation.
So yeah,
Well, the Patients Alliance. Or what is the what does the shirt say again? What's the organization in the UK that you were telling us about?
United Patients Alliance.
There you go. For all the UK folks out there, United Patients Alliance. I mean, this is pretty important stuff. It's not. There are people that are legitimately suffering out there and that can use these plants. We're not against plants here, just because most of us don't eat that many of them on a keto or carnivore diet doesn't mean we think they're bad. I mean, these things have use, and medicinal properties of many plants have been downplayed in lieu of pharmaceutical patented crap. Just like you see in the food industry, you're patenting the seeds, but you got to get rid of those heirloom seeds. Now we need lab-grown meat. Got to get rid of that real meat. Let's make cannabis illegal, and we'll sell you Marinol and whatever it was in the UK too. So, the whole syntheticization of life, and conditioning us to accept shrink-wrapped, styrofoam packaged products as health foods and as healing agents. We need to rethink this, and we need to take back control of what we are allowed to put into our bodies. So, yeah, thanks for coming on, Andrew. I really appreciate all the advocacy you've done over the years, and really, really appreciate you, just communicating with me and being so open and sharing with the audience here. I think a lot of people can learn from it, and I can't wait to talk to you again, man. So, where can people find you? You got any? You got a blog online, or you have anywhere where you'd like to direct people where they can find you?
Well, I do have a blog. It's called My Brain Cancer Story. I also have a YouTube channel, which I just ramble.
Good.
It's kind of like a diary. I don't really say much.
Well, I'll link
I don't
to
have
that.
any interesting debates with vegans or anything
Oh
like
man,
that.
they're not. None of them are interesting. That's a sad thing. But I'm gonna link to your YouTube channel. You guys will find a link in the description. Make sure to check out his blog, and yeah, man. Really appreciate you coming on. Everybody watching, thanks for hanging out. You can find us at primaledgehealth.com. Make sure to subscribe to Andrew's YouTube channel. I'll see you guys next time. All right.